live on YouTube.
All right, I'm tapping in.
Hey, everybody, it's almost agreement time. As we continue going through all the candidates for all the gajillion offices that are coming up in this election, I have Constance Every.
Yes, Constance
I always want to add
Every.
the L. I apologize. I don't know why. It's just in my head I want to say Everly, but Every is here. She's running for governor, which is really exciting. As an independent, I'm not a big party person, so anybody that's going to do it and run in without the party label, I tend to prefer. So anyway, we're going to talk to Constance today and learn more about her and her campaign and other things going on around town with that. We're almost agreement at gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. You can go to our website, almostagreement.com, and get all the episodes there, as well as my Election Guide 22. That Election Guide 22 is going to have links to all the episodes that we do with all the different candidates, as well as links to KGIS, Knox County Election Commission, that cool QR code thing I stole from Gloria Johnson that gets you information on where your voting location is, those kind of things as well. So we're almost in agreement. We're going to let this intro play out, and then Constance and I are going to chat.
Let's do it.
Hello, Constance. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing very well.
Thanks for coming out. Thanks for making the time. I'm excited about this one. You'll be, I guess you're my third state race. So one of the things I always get, before I started doing the show and started getting really into this, I didn't realize that August was general for county stuff, which you don't get to be a part of this time. You get to skip the whole August one and go straight to November. And so for me, I don't know, I'm lost. I know I'm lost, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I can't figure out who can tell me better, so I'm going to find out for myself. That's the kind of general concept that I run on, at least. And so let's start with the history of you. Give me a 5 to 8 minute autobiography.
5 to 8 minute autobiography. All right, I'm going to make it even shorter than that, I feel like. Because I'm right to the point. If you know about me, you know I'm right about a point. Like, for example, is this beer for me, too?
That's a water. You can have a beer if you want. I've got some beers in the fridge.
Okay.
That's a lie. I have Corona, if that counts as a beer. And then I've got some Trulies in the fridge if you want a Truly.
No, I'm good.
You're
I
welcome
thought that
to
was
it.
actual beer. Okay, Liquid Death.
Liquid
All
Death.
right.
It's a fun story. I'll tell you here. You do
All right,
your
cool,
backstory,
cool.
and I'll tell you the backstory of Liquid Death.
Cool. All right, so yes, my name is Constance Every. I'm running for governor of Tennessee. A little bit background, I guess, about myself is that I am a Tennessee native. I was born and raised in Knoxville, Tennessee. I attended all of pretty much the majority of my education except for my college career, which I would later return to UT to continue my studies of microbiology. But past that, K through 12, and like I said, I went to Austin Peay, and like I said, I came back to UTK later on in my educational career. I'm a disabled combat veteran. I served my country. I've been to Afghanistan war. I've also been through the grit of the country, and that's what I think really is my push towards what I'm running for, because I've been 4 years homelessness. I have mental illness, obviously, from the issues that I had experienced with my combat and my service, as well as the fact, I know it's like to grow up as a woman and dealing with those issues that come around being a woman, as well as the fact I'm black. I'm gay, so it's just a lot of dynamics of what Constance Every's been through in the life I've had to live. But those are the concepts that are pushing this campaign, because unfortunately we know that the harsh realities that the working class and the working poor particularly are one of the most overlooked and underserved and under-resourced communities that we have. And I just feel like there's a chance to do something different about it, given the fact that we have not seen either party really perform well. I think people are ready for something really that's serious about the needs of the people, not so much the interests of corporations and capitalism. And so, that's the Constance Every story in a nutshell, as fast as I can tell and as short as I can make it big.
We got time. We're in no hurry. I like to run about an hour. If you have needs to get before that, that's fine, whatever. But because again, I agree 100%. The two-party system is screwing this whole thing up to me. Mm-hmm. The more we get into it, and especially watching these primaries play out, and it's not a new concept, I guess, but at least it's new to me because I started paying attention. To me, the primary process is pushing further right or left, because the further right candidate's the one coming out of the primary, and then we're stuck with the furthest right and the furthest left of the field. If we don't have any independents or a third party, which is almost impossible to get on the ballot in the state of Tennessee, which is a whole separate problem that I like to complain about. But But why the governor race, I guess, is the next question in that to be. And so you've run for office before, right?
No.
No, this is your first official run?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
But so why the governor's office? You're starting at the top.
Yeah. So, the thing is that the background, I guess, of my political work is that I've founded some nonprofits. I guess I failed to mention that part. But you're right. You're going to help unpackage Constance Every a little bit more to the public because, again, I am a disabled combat veteran. So, so excuse me. Sometimes I come off a little bit tight because sometimes I am.
It's all good.
I founded 2 nonprofits, and one of those nonprofits is Black Coffee Justice. It's a social justice organization, social service justice organization. And the key concept around it is endorsing people-style candidates that are more to the projection of less of what we're talking about the party sides and the left and the right sides, but more about what is in the center, the gap that's been overlooked and constantly falling through, which is the people side. And so, I've been roughly around politics as far as endorsing candidates, helping push campaign platforms, helping us host events, community-based events, as well as in bringing in endorsed candidates that the organization has collectively decided through a vote of its members of who we will feel like best represent the needs of the people, and really pushing that campaign forward for about 7 to 10 years now, roughly, in that game.
Okay.
And so it's been in the state races, it's been in local races, it's been in federal races. We endorsed Marquita Bradshaw, Robin Kimbrough Hayes. We endorsed people like Keita Hayes, who ran for Congress. We endorsed Matthew Park. I mean, it's a long list of candidates that we have endorsed all across the board.
I like Matt Park. I've had him on a couple times. He's fun. He is the whitest skinned person I think I've ever met, though. But he's super white.
But he's super conscious though, at the same time.
Yeah, and he's really interesting because he knows a lot of stuff that we don't usually get to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's what I really enjoy talking about, because I think, again, one of the things to me is I realize how little I know.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to be open to things that I just didn't pay attention to before.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the further I get into that, the more I think the two parties suck, and the more I think they don't represent us at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, well, I guess to go back to campaign, I apologize. I wander, you wander. It's perfect. This is what I do. And so, but to go back to campaign, why governor though?
Yeah.
Why are we starting?
So bringing back to governor. So at the end of the day, being experienced, seeing those multiple styles of races, at the end of the day, it comes back to what one of the center concepts of what the military's taught me, which is the power of the pen. And in order to make true initial change, you have to look at what that power of a pen holds and its capabilities and its capacities. What is its limitations? What is its strengths, its weaknesses? What can it do overnight that can bring immediate change to a mass majority? At the same time, what can it do overnight to bring mass majority of harm and impact to many? It's a double-edged sword. It's
right.
what you're talking about. What kind of sword does that office hold? And when you start talking about the needs of the poor, you start talking about the needs of the black, start talking about the needs of the brown, start talking about the needs of disabled, talk about the needs of elderly, homeless. You start naming the demographics that are really the most impacted by decisions that are made at the highest level that trickle down. If you want to talk about trickle down effect, yeah, that's
right.
a trickle down effect.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, these are the people who are suffering the most, who make up the majority of the votes at the same time. And so the concept is we need to claim the office that holds the most powerful pen, because the things that I want to do, the changes that I want to bring, the type of platform that I'm running for, it can only be done with that type of authority of the pen, because I need the ability to veto and I need the ability to executive order. I need the ability to put things immediately towards the ballot. I need the ability to access emergency funds and emergency roles and jurisdictions that I get handed based off of things like the pandemic that we're in right now, or if there's a military threat. We got Oak Ridge right up the street from, these are different things that we have seen, unfortunately, time and time again, wealthy class members particularly who hold offices with the power of the pen. They normally do things that are more in the selfish interest of their selves, their lobbyists, and their capitalistic networks and affiliations. And meanwhile, the people, those TVA co-ash workers, that's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Why were they not at the forefront of what happened as far as what is the corrective action moving forward? How do we reprimand and restore? I think people need to stop using the word reparations, because that's the problem. Reparations lets you decide who created the harm. What's your retribution for your actions? When restoration says, no, the people who were harmed gets to decide what is your retribution for your actions. And so what we have seen in the failure of that situation is that the federal partner, TVA, which is coming from our, like I said, our federal government chain of command, has not been held truly accountable. But that's the problem when they're part of Bill Lee's support. They are donors to his campaign. Right. So come on now. You really think he's going to cut off the hand that feeds him? No. Right. And so that's what we also need. We need someone who's not affiliated with the networks, who are part of this destructive and corruptive cycle. And so I ran for governor because it was about power to pen. accessing it with the control and jurisdiction that it has to really help the majority of us, and start letting the wealthy know that your money does not entitle you to the control that you have. It is poor policies and poor acceptance of voters choosing these people to be oversighting these policies that allow you all to get away with pretty much, in my opinion, is murder at the end of the day, because people are actually dying from these type of policies they're passing. And then the third factor is obviously restoring that power back to the people, so we can start moving collectively together in the conversation of how do we take our $52 billion budget and use it to impact our mothers who are on maternity leave, who should not go without the adequate health care, without the adequate necessities to feed her child, and the adequate necessity to assist her child, especially when they're single mother homes on top of that, that what we would properly appropriate to say that for 6 months, from the time she has the baby to the time that this first 6 months of this child's life, even possibly to the year, is appropriate for this mother's maternity leave from her job.
Right.
As well as the fact that at the same time, we need parks. I'm not against that. I'm not against dog parks or playgrounds for our children. So the same thing. How do we oversight the conversation as a community, as a collective, to say this is also what's appropriate for our outdoor recreational activities? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it shouldn't be a combative thing where one side should feel like I should get more or you should get less. It should be more the concept of we are looking at how these different aspects of our ecosystem, of our humanity of life, our communities, our culture, our children, educational institutions, how are they being impacted? What is the impact that has been made? And most importantly, who will suffer the most from the decision at the end of the day? I'm all for majority rule at the end of the day, right? Like, I'm a big majority rule fan. But for me, at the same time, we have to be tactful and intelligent about the things that we're doing, and really make sure that when we do things that we're moving in the appropriation that is in the most beneficial of us all, and not creating the impacts of harm that we're currently seeing time and time again.
Okay, and so like that's a lot.
It was.
There.
I'm sorry.
Okay. No, it's fine. Because if I pick it up parts and pieces, right, one of the things that I personally think is problematic is I think one of the issues we have as a nation is we think backwards about our government.
Mm-hmm.
I think we look federally first and locally last. I think it needs to flip over.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that I have issues with just in the state level stuff is that Knoxville and Memphis are not the same place. Nashville and Chattanooga
Mm-hmm.
are not the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the whole swath of the much more rural section of the state that have nothing like any of the cities, but we somehow have this blanket approach to everything. And so as governors, that's something that you would look into as far as trying to separate some of this stuff, like school board. One of the things I've been most interested in, I got 2 kids that I've got locked in the room so they'll shut up so we can do this. And, you know, we're watching all this different school stuff going on, and it's like, well, like one of the specifics that Billy in the House did this last 2 sessions ago or whatever was this kind of voucher pilot thing. It's been in the whole lawsuit and all that mess. And the whole lawsuit basis on it was they were only doing it in 2 counties. And the state constitution says, well, you got to do it everywhere or do it nowhere. And so it's like, well, I don't know. We don't have to get into a voucher debate or not, but if we as Knox County want to do something a certain way, why do we have to ask Nashville? That's the thing for me. I don't know how you would play that as governor, but I guess that's kind of a question. Do you think it is a more appropriate use of the power and ability of the state government to let the locals tend to their own business and stay out of it as much as possible, or do you think the oversight of the state is preferred?
I believe that when I look at what you just talked about, the aspects of government, period, I look at it what it has always been, in my opinion, because, again, I've been put into its institutional structure by being in the military, and that is that at the end of the day, it's chain of command. You have a local, state, and federal. And you're right. It's not necessarily one piece per se over trumps the other. It is an interlateral forever intersectionality. If you want to talk about intersectionality, chain of command that's constantly working within and out and outside of itself. And so, but it's weird because it's like an influence almost. It's like it's just an influential system of communication is what I really call it, I guess, if you could break it down into that level. Because yes, federal can oversight the state and the local, but then, you know, state has this additional clause that says what? State rights, right? So It's like, okay, they do still control an aspect of jurisdiction of themselves, and vice versa. Once you get to the state level, coming to the county, which is your local level, kind of where it starts to break down. Yes, you have cities and metropolitans, but county is really your next level chain of command, because that's what the state sends their fund into.
Right.
And so once the county receives their allotment of their funds, yes, at the same time, they do have the authority to jurisdict their budgets and how they want it to work for their particular communities in their particular cities. That is true. And even then, like I said, then it moves into the municipality government, which is, like you said, your city jurisdiction, some of those aspects of it, townships, etc. But at the end of the day, all of this still is, to me, what gives to me, like I said, putting it back to the people, is that this is still taxpayers' money.
Right.
The whole chain still funds by taxpayers'
right,
dollars.
But I think that is one of the problems with it. That every especially all the money goes to the state from sales tax collection,
mm-hmm.
and then whoever does whatever they do, and portions come back,
mm-hmm.
and there's a lot lost in the process. And whether there's value in that loss, we can talk about separately. But to me,
mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the issues, is that Knox County is the 5th largest collector county in the state of sales
mm-hmm.
tax,
mm-hmm.
and especially at least for the schools. Last time I talked to Ron McPherson, I want to say we get we're the 5th highest collector and get the 4th least back,
mm-hmm.
because
mm-hmm.
we can collect more, and so more of our money is going into Rones and Anderson counties. And I get the idea.
mm-hmm.
I'm not opposed to it in completion, but I think that's one of the things to me, is that we don't pay attention to that. We don't see that happening. We don't know where it goes. It just kind of happens.
And that's the problem, don't you think?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
think that's one of the problems. Like, it should be transparent. You shouldn't be sitting here telling me, I don't know where our tax money go right now. I agree. That's part of my frustration. I don't know where it goes. And I tell you why. Because when you pull the state budget, guess how many pages is it?
I don't know. It's a lot.
536. I will tell you, we've looked at 3 of them from 2020 to now, just to see some of where the money is going. One of the biggest problems, like, for example, if you talk about the incarceration system in our state, it's impossible to track the money. It goes in and out so many areas, to so many different hands, this attorney, this county, this location, this space. It's insane how they have gotten this flowing. And so to me, that's why I'm like, no, it does matter what happens in Knoxville and what happens in Chattanooga, what happens in Memphis as a taxpayer, absolutely.
Right.
Because what one government is doing, they are only copycatting to another. If Indy Cannon can pull off getting away with 28% property tax in Knoxville, you better believe several of the cities and counties are going to follow her lead, because they're
right.
doing what? Getting away with it. And so what I'm trying to do is get taxpayers to understand we got to stop being distracted by these antics and start really paying attention to what's happening in each other's government, so we can help advocate for those communities, because those are our family and friends too. I got family and friends that live in Memphis, Nashville, Chattanooga, you name it, all over this state. And so I could never sit here and act like, as a fellow poor person, that somebody else who's poor, I'm supposed to be combating with them. For what? We're on the same team.
Right.
We need to combat in them. They're the ones racking us off of our money, becoming wealthy with it, writing bogus policy, because lobbyists are all the way in our state paying them. If you want to talk about education, then we have to talk about Bill Gates and the TISA formula and where that really was created from, because he's the influencer to that being in our state. And if you actually pay attention to what that program is talking about, it is going to take money out of public education and move it into privatization. And the kicker is that, yeah, your kid can move in and out of the schools. You can go from private to public, public to private, but the money doesn't come back and forth. Once you leave the public education and go private, and you decide, okay, maybe this ain't for me, I want to go back to public, those dollars stay privatized. They do not follow your child back. And I think that's a huge gap that people should know about.
I've been trying to figure that one out. But
that's what they're not telling you all.
Right.
That's the problem with it. And so it's like, yes, this is a form of privatizing our education. And to me, if we're going to do that, then we need to have a vote to that first off. The public needs to know what's going on and why it's happening. What is the benefits or the harm, which I think these are one of the harm pieces right here. And more importantly, we need to have a vote where the taxpayer decide if this is what they want to do. And if this is not it, then we scrap it. And then parents, every parent in the state of Tennessee who is a part of this budgeting, that's the key thing. At the end of the day, this is still the state level budgeting for each local level, your share of the money. So
right.
To me, it starts at the state, because this is where
I
it
agree.
really matters. It's right here in the front. We need to stop waiting to the back. To me, once you get to the local, it's kind of in the back at this point.
I joke about the school board Knox County School Board has very little to do with
very little. It's state level. You got to go to the state with this, right? And so, that's to me where we got to collectively as parents say, okay, parents, what is the perfect model, or as close as we can get to the perfect model of your opinion? So when you have a school board made up with individuals like, what's his name, Jordan Mullenhour, who is part of the Lucky Gunner administration, who sits on our Board of Education, I become concerned, because I'm like, what is a person that has interest in arms and Second Amendment doing sitting on my Board of Education, when that could have been a parent, that could have been a bus driver, that could have been a teacher, that could have been a special education teacher or a resource officer, that could have been one of our mental health therapists, one of our child psychologists who sat in that seat instead, to help make a proper decision for the parent taxpayers to decide, this is how we want to spend our tax dollars for public or private education. One of the things I want to throw out there about my platform is that one of the things I think I can do on my level as governor now is First, parents, I would say, give me opportunity to fully fund education across the board. To me, the sacrificial lamb here is our children. See, I told you, I think from who is really going to be the most harm, it's our kids. Now, do we as adults across the Tennessee and across the world, because I want everybody to think about this, because this is happening in a lot of spaces with education and CRT. That's kind of the hot topic to it. But this is an education question that everybody needs to think about as a parent with a child. Do you want your child to grow up and know that you lied to them in their education? When you could have, as a parent, stood up and said something, done something, even if you just fall, maybe it doesn't happen. But the point is that your children will grow up seeing you fight for the truth. And then they grow up to find out you have lied to them. How do you think they're going to actually treat you? Right. The very thing you think you're preventing, you're going to create. You're going to create the monster regardless of the fact. So to me, parents, let me fully fund all the education, whether it's private, whether it's charter, whether it's public. All schools deserve equitable access to educational resources. All schools deserve a trade school. All schools deserve an apprenticeship program. All schools deserve a STEM. I think STEM curriculum should be introduced. I think the old model of education is kind of worn out. I think part of the problem with education right now, we talk about behavioral things, is that these children are bored. They have cell phones. They have tablets starting at what, 2 or 3 now? So by the time they done YouTube,
we kicked and screamed. We made it to the 3rd grade before we got one. And I mean, it was,
man, I don't think I mean Nintendo video games, but computer. Oh man, that was like later in life. I feel like it was like high school.
Yeah, he was like the last kid in his class to get it. And
yeah,
get his own phone in
exactly.
3rd grade. It's pretty. And I agree. I think I 100% agree. I think the school model that we use in this station is way past its expiration. I think we really need to have a real conversation about what we want schools to do first, and then how we want them to do that. And I don't think we're having that conversation, because I think it's one of many things that we do through the policy government thing that it's always been. It's just always been. It's always been, and we just repeat it because I don't know if we're too scared to do it, or if there's too many people probably making too much money to want to change anything.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
But and I think that's a problem, and I think that's something that, again, going back to the beginning, I think that's something that the two-party system isn't going to push back against, because they're well funded by those type of people.
Right. That's why I'm independent. Yeah. I'm independent for that very reason.
I mean, it's a mess though. It's such a handicap to your potential campaign to be an independent.
Right. Right.
But I don't know. That's some of the way it works. So I guess we deal with it. I think that's another thing to me. And I don't know, maybe if this is something we'll have to see how Haggard gets out of this whole DUI debacle that he's going through right now.
Yeah, Bono had to
but I'd like to see some changes in election law across the board. I think, one, if your party wants to primary, you guys go ahead and do that and pay for it yourself.
Yes.
I don't need my tax dollars going there.
That part.
Because I'm not allowed to play your games. You guys pay for your games.
Right.
It's fine with me.
Right.
But I'd like to get into a ranked choice, or at least a nonpartisan primary balloting. This process is dumb.
Yes.
It does not get us better representation.
Absolutely.
It keeps them where they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Whew.
That's
right.
a big one.
It is. I really did
Yes.
I really think that's one of those ones that, again, it's the same deal. It's like, this is what we're used to. Like, what's going to happen if we change this whole thing? It's like the city.
It actually worked. Oh my God, it worked.
The city of Knoxville's done it for a decade now.
Yes.
And it's not perfect, but at least the open primary is a much better system than the version that we do out here in the county and statewide.
Right.
Okay, geez. So much to unpack here. I don't know. Okay, so one of the questions I always ask that we got ahead of ourselves on is, we already asked why this race, but is there a specific? Well, we already answered that. I don't have to go back over that. Okay, moving forward. So you've talked about some of the policy stuff that you want to do. What's like your top 5 policy stuff? I didn't go to your website. I don't do. That's one of my little games.
Okay,
I go in blind on purpose.
Stuff. So I think our open commitments. If you go to the platform at Tennessee for Everyone, which is TN, the number 4 Every, EVERY, number 1.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, Tennessee for Everyone. Yep.
But it's the number 4.
Yes, number 4. Shout out to Tyler Gibbons for that one. Appreciate him. Yes.
He was a fun show.
Yes, he was.
Oh, I totally misspelled that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll come up. I think it'll Google for you. He's trying to find it. He misspelled it. Put the every one, like the number 1 at the end. But yeah, so if you open up our platform, some of our open commitments is that we are, that's it. There it is. Yeah.
I don't know how to work a computer. Yay.
Yeah, and if you scroll up, you'll see our first opening commitments. But some of our first open commitments is that number 1, I'm going to bring another big one to the table for us, is that we're we're wanting to move into livable wages now. As we know, inflation is at its highest point that it's ever been since the Great Depression, the true last Great Depression in this country. And so at this point, to continue to ask people to work for $7.25 an hour is insane to me at this point. If we're going to keep up with the track of inflation, I'm willing to be, as we talking about being bold, taking bold steps. I think at this point, minimum wage has to be at least $23 to $25 an hour. I know a lot of people scream at the top of their lungs as far as the business owners on the other side, but as when you talk about writing policy, that's one of the things that on a state level we have to change the policy.
Okay, so here's my issue with that, and I am a business owner, and I think 23 is excessive, but I'm not I don't know. We'll talk about.
Let me tell you the policy. Let me tell you the policy.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The policy is that we have to change the definition of small businesses. Okay. That's the first step, because what is the current model of the definition of small business? It's not a small business. As you know, the definition of small business that I think you can have
like up to
500 employees or something like that. It's something crazy like that. It's really high. And I'm like, yeah, that's General Ford Motors. And that's definitely not what I would call small business at all. When I think about small business, I'm thinking a company that may has 30 employees or even less. And even then it could go down even to half. Maybe it's more like 15 employees or less.
I got 8.
Yeah. So
which sucks. I wish I only had 7, because if I had 7, then I wouldn't have to deal with, well, that's not true. I have a Facebook page. Stupid state, or that's another federal oversight thing.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes.
Once you hit 8, you have to hit the federal labor standards. Under 8, you just have to follow Tennessee labor standards.
Right. And see, that's the thing. You need to come to the table and help assist in writing those policies around small business, because I think one of the concepts that, again, like we just talked about, policy is what's harming small businesses, not livable wages. And so in order to raise livable wages, I have to first do what? Implement policy that will protect the true definition of small businesses, as well as the fact, one of the roles I feel like that's also an advantage of being more of an advocate and activist in the community and doing nonprofit grassroots work, running for this particular position, is that now what I have to do as governor is I have to go to the federal level, and I do have to advocate for those federal policy changes as well, to say, look, when you wrote this law, someone that was a lobbyist paid someone to sign off on a document that the non-union corporations against unions wrote to say, look, this is the definition of small businesses. But what you didn't do is read the paperwork where you found out that they can have 500 employees and be deemed themselves a small business. This has to change on the federal level to protect the true definition of small business, which is what we're talking about, 30 or less, 15 or less, somewhere around that margin that says these are the definitions of small business. More importantly, that PPP money, now this is where this money goes and directs towards, to help these small businesses afford livable wage rates that we're going to raise, because we cannot no longer tell someone because you flip a burger or because you work at a laundromat or because you clean toilets at the high school that you don't deserve to have a home. You do not deserve to be able to afford groceries. My goodness, talk about gas. You don't deserve to be able to afford gas, because if you pay somebody $7.25 an hour for gas, that's all they bought was gas to get back and forth to do it again tomorrow, and hope by the end of the month that they'll have affordability of a $1,200 a month rent right now or higher as we speak. So we have to start being realistic, and I'm asking everybody, yes, to give it up. I'm asking everybody to give for the greater gain. Stop looking at what you're going to lose and start looking at what you can gain. And I promise you, the end of 4 years, Tennessee will be the model state, and everybody be trying to copycat and grab for your governor because they want me to come on to another level, even go run the UN as we speak.
So let's talk about Ukraine then. I'm just kidding. But I mean, okay. All right. You pack so much in, it's hard to unpack it all. So,
because it makes a lot of sense. It really does. Because it does.
I follow where you're getting at, but I just like, okay, so right now in Knoxville, at least, according to the chamber, we're like 10,000 jobs or 10,000 employees short of jobs.
Yeah.
How many people are actually working true minimum wage in Knoxville right now?
I would say at least half. Because if you got a 47% poverty rate just in the African-American community who's making $20,000 or less as a family of 5, that lets me know that there's a demographic that's definitely working that is not making livable wages to afford their economical needs.
How can we? Okay. So, all right. Again, I don't. You know the stats better than me, because this is a bunch of different stuff I've been trying to put together, because it on the surface, at least, it seems to me if there's jobs, if there's a deficit of employees, and wages should be going up naturally. It shouldn't matter. How are we not finding better paying jobs for people? Because I know for me in my business, we've upped our starting rate $4 over the last 3 years.
Because Tennessee is a right to work state, and minimum wage is $7.25 an hour on the federal and the state level.
I agree.
At the end of the day, the laws are supporting the people who were slave employment.
I didn't raise my wages for my staff because my products changed, because anything else changed. I didn't raise my prices for it. I needed staff, and so I raised my wages. because that's the only way I could get wages, because the prior wages I was set wasn't worth it for people to come to work for me. Now, and again, I'm a teeny tiny business or whatever, but how is that not happening across the board right now when we have such a shortage of workers? That's where I'm confused on this. I'm not saying this has anything to do with you personally. This is just what a concept I've been trying to wrap my head around. It's the same thing with houses. Like, I can't figure out how as fast as we were building houses, we can't get enough to get all the people in houses. It's still it's one of those things where, like, I understand on the local level, like I understand here why we're having a housing shortage because so many people are coming here, but where's everybody coming from?
They say California, New York, and they say developers out of Texas.
And they also say that those places are still having housing issues. And it's like, well, if everybody's leaving there, they should have surplus housing there and it should be going down. But that's not what the conversation is. And again, this is me trying to understand things. This isn't, again, you seem to know more about certain things than I do. And so I'm trying to use the excuse to learn. I don't know. I honestly don't really disagree in theory with how that would all shake down raising minimum wage. But okay, so you were separating small business in that while we were talking wages. So why were we separating the definition of small businesses in there?
Because the current definition of small business doesn't fit the dynamic of the true definition of small business.
Right, but what by fixing the definition to a more accurate version, and I agree with you 100% on that part. How does that involve the wage conversation, though? Is that we will have a different wage for truly small businesses than larger businesses, or we have different tax brackets? Like, that's where I'm kind of confused on how you...
Oh, you're talking about your incentive part, I guess. What would be the incentive for that concept change?
Right.
So is that, yes, one of them is definitely, yes, your tax bracket change. And then the second factor is like I said before, we can create out of our budget, obviously, the accessibility to create our own level of PPP loan funding to our small business to assist with those minimum pay raise changes to their payroll. And more importantly, I would like to find a concept that makes that particular loan be more like a nano money market concept loan, where you can actually profit from taking the loan and use it to build more capital for your own business in itself. So there are definitely, in my opinion, advantage and models that we can bring in and introduce to help assist the concept of, one, like I said, changing policy, two, creating obviously incentives for our small business owners and meeting those minimum wage standards. And I guess the three factors that, yes, maybe there's a minimum wage that we do have to set a different standard for our small business to our larger corporation business, because obviously, like I said before, asking BP to pay the same rate, or asking you to pay the same minimum pay rate that BP can afford, is not been realistic. But at the same time, we do have to take in consideration that, though, like I said before, inflation and that is impacting our housing market, as you've already admitted yourself, has to be something we still have to consider, because people does not deserve to not afford home. I just don't think that's an appropriate model either.
I follow you on that 100%, but wouldn't taking less taxes in the first place be the same premise of, instead of taxing and then giving back as a way to help raise wages, just tax less in the first place?
Yes, remove necessity tax. I think I've definitely stood on that concept as well, is that we should not be paying taxes on housing. We should not be paying taxes on utility. Should not be paying taxes on food, clothing, or fuel. Things that you have to have. I don't feel like we should be making it into a racketeer profiting, because that's what it is, really, necessity tax. So I agree with that. But at the end of the day, I cannot, because of my some of my state laws. And like I said, even then, we even have to change the concept of the right to work state law. To me, that's another law that's starting to come into the picture of this conversation, to even make those necessary adjustments for small business owners, and as well as the employees. I think it has to go both hands, right? Like, we can't just say all owner and we can't say all employees. It has to be, again, a mutual, some type of form of a compromising relationship, so everybody can find a happy medium to afford to pay. I don't think you not want to pay your employees well, but again, you have your own family, your own home to take care of too. I get it. Again, I'm not saying I don't see your fish of needs as well, but the key concept is trying to bring people like you, your employees, to the table and come up with some strategies that will work. I have some introduction strategies, obviously, but I don't have the perfect answer, because I'm a business owner, but I'm a nonprofit business owner. So my concept and my dynamics are different and more important. My employees are more or less volunteers. They can choose to be here or not be here, but at the same time, no one's paying you to come in or out and clock in or out either. So it's one of those concepts that I have to me, the advantage of not being per se in your shoes, who have to actually know, got to pay payroll tax. You got your federal, state level taxes, and all those other factors.
Right, because that's one of the things. That's one of the things I don't think people consider when they talk about minimum wage or payroll anyway, is because if I have a $15 an hour employee, generally it costs me about $20 an hour to employ them. With all the taxes and matches and all the different stuff that we have to do, and insurance,
right? Yeah, it's like it's expensive. Yes.
And again, that's one of the things that my gut reaction to a minimum wage increase is, well, it's if we go to 23, 25, like you were talking about, we're talking 32, 35, that it's actually going to cost me to employ people, which what I'll have to do at least initially until it works its way through, I'd have to just cut staff. I mean, I don't know how I would go about that any other way.
So you said
currently.
if I cut tax, then what would be the tax difference if it's like $5 additional
Well, Tennessee's
per person?
Tennessee's a little bit hard to figure out, but again, on that necessity part,
Okay.
because we get more affordable housing, more affordable food and stuff like that, and so $12 an hour or whatever it is going to go further because you're not losing 10% every time you buy anything. Same idea, and so like if it's take that 10% and then give a portion of it back to me to help raise my employee pay, or just stop taking that 10% from my employees, take less out of my tax, because I'd rather pay my employees $20 an hour and actually pay them that, and then they can spend it however they want instead of me having to spend $2 over here at the state and another $2 on the federal and all the different stuff together. It'd make more sense to me if I just gave you, my employee, the entirety of your money instead of me having to pay all these extra parts and pieces and these employment taxes and all those kind of things, and then match, what is it, disability, unemployment, and all those other things that we have to do. That would make more sense to me, because then I have more cash as the business owner to distribute to the people that are actually doing the job, instead of having to hold it and hire a third-party company to handle my payroll for me, because they had to figure out all the complexities of payroll tax and all that kind of stuff for me, which is another cost I have to pay. If I could just say, hey, you work 40 hours for me and you work at $20 an hour, here's $800. You worked a full week, here's $800. You go deal with it. Have fun. I mean, that to me is the same premise, because this is what I find most fascinating about a lot of people, and especially what we've been talking about so far, is I think you and I agree on a lot of end goals. It's how to get there. That's where it gets fun and exciting. But I get it, and one of the things, I guess, to me, and again, we talked about it 3 or 4 times already, is this two-party thing doesn't do it. We're stuck in this we've always done it this way model. And so even though like my gut and my philosophical approach to politics is pretty opposite of yours, I'd rather try yours than to keep going down a path we know doesn't work. I think that's one of the problems that like I'm willing to give it. I'm willing to give it a go. I voted for Trump the first time. No, I didn't. That's a lie. I voted for the Libertarian candidate. But I liked Trump the first time because it was fuck it. It was like, what are we doing? We get another Clinton or another Bush.
Right. It's the same.
We've done this before, and it wasn't good then. So why are we doing it now?
It's the same.
At least we'll throw a wrench in here, and something fun might happen. And depending on how you look at it, it was kind of fun. It was crazy.
It was crazy. Yes.
But I mean, and honestly, my hope in what he was going to be was completely off, and I hope that he doesn't run again, and I hope we don't have to deal with it anymore. But again, I mean, Biden's just another
old guy. Yes, he's old.
A standard Democrat, and we're just doing. Yeah. So I'm tired of having the same conversation, and I'm with you on that 100%. But like I think there's 1,000 different ways to go there, but I don't think that's a conversation we're allowed to have anymore. There's 2 ways. There's red way, there's blue way. That's it.
Nah, that's what I'm saying. I'm here to throw the monkey wrench in this race and say no. There's a third, fourth, fifth, and sixth case way. What's the old saying? There's more than one way to skin a cat. That's what I'm on. Let's figure out the way to skin this cat. I don't care how we do it, but let's just figure out how we're going to skin this cat.
Somebody's going to throw the you can't reinvent the mousetrap either. That's the if we're going to throw those little adages around, that's
of course. And here's my thing for those people: why not? Why would we? If it works, again, what this other saying: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Exactly.
But this is broke. Way. This is pretty broken.
Yeah,
pretty because again, that's like with the schools to me. That's the thing with schools to me. It's like we're so stuck, and it's like every parent I know, every me as a parent, or my kids' friends and their parents and stuff like that. We get into little chats about stuff. And it's like, this is not great.
No,
this is just not.
It's not
great.
the answer. It's not even the answer.
It's like I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go, and it's like, I don't know. But we agree there's a problem, but we don't I don't know, CRT and whatever gay book bullshit that's going on right now and all that kind of stuff. That's not the problem either.
No, it's not. It's like those are surface issues at the end of the day. To me, those are all distractions. As I said, to me now we're at a point where the two parties, in my opinion, are collectively participating. They are collectively creating division and antics when it's necessary to take the caption of, it's time to vote. Pay attention to me.
Well, it's like we joked about it earlier. We could talk about I didn't want to talk about Ukraine, but we could spend $40 billion in Ukraine right now.
Yeah, but at home we're starving. No, I totally agree with you. I'm frustrated by that because I'm like, we have so many needs right now in our own country, and we're just dumping our tax dollars out of the door. And then here's a kicker. Here's maybe 3 months from now, when a crisis happens here, they'll be like, we don't have the money. Oh, you think? Because you just sent it out the door. Exactly. Right. Like, that's the problem. Like, we are quick to want to be a superhero, strap our cape around our neck country for everybody else, but when it's time to save our own people, we leave them high and dry every time. We're Darth Vader over here. So it's like, that's not cool. cool. Like we got to stop doing that because it should be.
Picked up on my Star Wars dorkitude.
Yeah,
room.
yeah, I'm
obvious.
into that. Got you, bro. Yeah. So yeah, but no, for real, like we should be taking care of home first, and that's what frustrates me about America collectively as a disabled combat veteran. Yes, that's what really frustrates me because I'm like, it's crazy how we take care of everybody else but ourselves. We need to take care of home first. I should not go overseas, fight for this country, go to war, and really see the disparities, real third world country disparities the way I have, and then return home to a country that really don't have such third world disparities, but I'm still walking past I need food sign family on the corner. Right. That does not make sense to me anymore.
I agree.
How is this happening here? I just came and fought for this country, and this is what I come home to. No, right. I didn't fight for this. I did not fight for this. And so I'm upset as a veteran of this country, even how they even treat us. Again, one of the highest homeless rates is who? Veterans.
Right.
How are one of the highest mental health rates are who? Veterans. It's like, come on, America. We gave our lives to this country, and y'all can even make sure that we're not number one out the house and number one not in the loony house. Come on. That's just not, right. It's not okay.
Right. And
it's not okay.
And there's two simple solutions. Make less. Let's make less veterans that are wounded and have to deal with shit.
Yeah.
Let's quit sending them places to do stupid things that don't do any real good for us at home. And when we do, because we need to, when we actually need to, then we need to take care of it.
Oh, even brings me to my bigger point. Legalization of cannabis is one of my platforms. I think that we need to be legalized recreational and medicinal use for obviously some of the issues that we're talking about right now. There's an amazing doctor who is trying to do research on cannabis and PTSD illness-related mental health issues. The issue is that the federal government has agreed that the study should be done, but will not approve her study so she can actually do it.
Well, because it's still Schedule 1 and they're too lazy to fix it.
No, but the state can do it now. See, that's one of the things I can do as governor. I can just go in and do it now.
I would like to. That's one of my pitches I always do to everybody. To me, it's and I've had my efforts in it. I've never enjoyed it. It just doesn't work for me. Like I get sick. I smoke it. I get sick.
If you had a study, you may be able to find a strain that's best for you.
Maybe. But to me, it's just economics. Like,
that part. I was like, it's about money. It's about the money at the end of the day.
Yes, I don't mean to throw away the actual positive good that it can do
no,
for certain
health
people
concerns. It's economic was my second biggest point to it. Yes, it's money.
Especially if we could get it done before they take it off Schedule 1 federally.
Yeah.
Because then you can't import it into the state. You can't export it out of the state. So we'll have farmers, we'll have distributors, and we'll have retailers here.
Yeah.
And they'll all be Tennessee residents. They'll all be Tennessee citizens.
Yes.
And there'll be tax revenue out the wazoo.
And we'll be eating well. We'll be eating well down here.
And I would like to, I don't think it should be special tax personally, but
it shouldn't.
That's a whole separate thing. But
actually, I want to tax it at the minimum base. I want to deal with like max 3% at the most. At the most. And that's even at the most. Yeah.
Well, because I think that's one of the problems some of the states that have done is they've overtaxed it.
Yeah.
And the black market didn't go away. Because then there's that whole other black market thing that causes violence and other things that it might help take care of too.
Yeah.
But see, I operate more as a libertarian, and so I'm cool with heroin being legal.
Poland has done it right now and shown us what examples looks like if you just say, you know what, everybody can just do it. And Oregon, if you say a state side, Oregon is about as close as we've gotten to some of that type of legalization of Schedule 1 drugs, because at the end of the day, data is showing that they've had reductions in those spaces. I think Oregon's last data was that they had 37% less cases of overdosing. And I think Poland, who's been doing the longest now, I think they're down almost half of their overdose
Portugal is
population.
another good one if you've looked at the Portugal studies.
I've looked that up, So you're seeing the obvious effect. And I told you, I said, I think it's just the psychological concept of humankind. When you say I can't do something, I'm going to do it. But then when it's like I can do it, the thrill is gone. So I don't want to do it no more. It's like, it's just crazy how we rebel naturally.
Certainly there'll be a period of time when a lot of people get into trying stuff they probably shouldn't for their own personal health just because it is legal. Mm-hmm. There's probably a percentage of people out there that don't do certain things just because it's illegal. Mm-hmm. But within a very short period of time, it'll settle down. It'll be people that just like we treat alcohol, there are people in alcohol that don't get along with alcohol that ought not be drinking and still do.
Right.
And so we'll have to deal with some of those people, but it won't be some crazy pandemic level numbers that's going to shut down us as a society. It's just it'll settle down.
Yeah, and more importantly, if we're treating mental health appropriately, we can find out those root causes of why someone who clearly shouldn't drink alcohol is still drinking, because obviously that to me comes off as an escape or coping mechanism.
Right. I think that's a lot of it for all of them.
Yeah. So exactly. So it's like we can even get to the core and, like you said, start even isolating those particular groups off to really, like I said, help them and make them reproductive citizens back in our society, which does what? Produce money for our economy, more tax dollars coming in, more way we can profit and take care of ourselves. I mean, it all works together. It's either we can keep, like you said, working in this broken cycle, or we can do something different. It's not going to be perfect, but it will be a fresh start. More importantly, I think we can get a lot of things right, because we see what the broken looks like. I think we can fix some things pretty quick, like healthcare, education, economics, some of those big pieces. And then, like you said before, the integrated, the deep layer tissue, real got to get to the harm and trauma spaces. We can work our way down to that, but we have to fix the surface level first, because if people continue to just feel like harm is the only thing that they have offer, then harm is all we're going to continue to create, because as they say, hurt people hurt people.
Right.
Well, I feel like that's what we're trapped in right now. We're trapped in a cycle of hurt people are just hurting people.
Right. I get what you're saying. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about strategy, and we'll see what kind of time we have. Like, so, I mean, it's a statewide race. Like, how are you going about trying to get the whole state on board? What's your strategy in your campaign as far as getting out there and getting your message out? You have a good looking website. You're fun to talk to. But have you taken a trip to Nashville or Memphis? Are you doing any legwork? What's the word I'm looking for? I'm blanking.
Door knocking on ground.
Like
yes,
that.
Absolutely. Now I kind of be subjected to not share my mapping strategies and never know who's listening. But long story short, I would say this is that yes, we have so far visited 23 of the 95 counties, predominantly in the East Tennessee area. Coming into this month, moving into next month, we're going to Middle Tennessee, and we'll be finally out into West Tennessee, hopefully by the fall time frame, around the kind of the last stretch of the season. We are working with some fellow grassroots known organized organizations around the country. Actually, I'm networking outside for this particular piece, who we are currently having regular weekly meetings with to get them familiarized with the demographics and the climate of Tennessee per se. They'll be falling in August through November to really help us also impact the East, the Middle, and West Tennessee space. I have already visited Nashville, and I've also already visited Clarksville, and I have a lot of good feedback from the West Tennessee spaces. I have folks in Memphis and some other areas that are already tracking with the campaign and have commented and kept up with what some of the things that we're doing. So we're actually looking forward to going west very soon. But like I said, my nonprofit work, I think, is where this is critical, because I know where to find the poor people. I know where to find the homeless people. I know where to find the black and the brown people. And these are some of the spaces that we have targeted in every county that we have visited. We have visited every veteran location, because obviously I'm a veteran, so I'm always going to reach out to my fellow military brothers and sisters and ask them to buy into the campaign. And then from there, we go visit normally one of our lower income, one of our known impoverished areas of the community that we are in the county visiting that day, just engage with those voters and hear their personal stories of just how ways being poor has been a thorn in the side of their lives, unfortunately, because when you don't have it, you are have not. And unfortunately, what they give is not always in the best, again, as we've already discussed, the best interest of those people in need. And I think that, again, hearing these firsthand personal stories, again, are showing me the people who should be at the administrative table, really helping to figure out these strategies going forward in my particular design of administration. Because, again, I told you, I'm really about the people really having the narrative to this conversation. And so even been able to locate where these people are. So once I'm victorious in November, I know also where to come back and find some of those folks. Or like I said, I come with administration that's kind of already set up where I know to send my folks, where we're going to come and visit immediately to sit down with my entire administration and say, okay, how do we get elderly disabled care right? Tell me what I need to do different. How do we get private education right? How do we get charter education right? How do we get public education right? How do we get public transportation right? How do we increase small business turnover and revenue and accessibility? How do I increase home ownership? How do I increase people that may want to just have an apartment? Because everybody don't want to live in a house. Some people want an apartment. So how do I increase affordable housing, even in that narrative? Like, you, the people, are going to tell me how to do this work, because I'm talking to you directly already. And when I say that I'm putting you to the table, I mean that, and I'm committed to my word. I think that's the other thing. When people say, well, how are you going to increase voter turnout? I think, one, we need candidates to tell the truth and do exactly what they say they're going to do. I think that's why what you're talking about, the two sides have played themselves out, is because, like you said before, it's one after the other, but it's the exact same thing. And one thing y'all got in common, y'all all rich, y'all all white, and y'all all make promises that you break constantly over and over again. And so at this point, why would I keep voting as a voter, as a taxpayer, for the guy who I know exactly what I'm getting Exactly. I'm not voting no more. People don't know this, that Tennessee was the 46th lowest state in voter turnout in some of the past elections. So it's telling me off rip, we're not voting here because people are tired of, because at the same time, Tennessee also has 6% that make over $200,000 a year, while the remaining 94% live in some type of economical hardship or cost crisis. So that shows you the numbers in itself. Again, we have to change everything we're doing. We have to put the people who are most impacted and most harmed to the table. And we have to, as a community, as taxpayer collective, come up with strategic planning that will benefit the majority, not the minority.
Right. And I agree. I think I think that there's a clear wealth line somewhere, and that is the battleground. It's the haves versus have-nots, however you want to say it. And I think they use all the other fun little cultural bullshit as the distraction piece to figure out how to get us fighting over something else. Great little cartoon on it. It's the king standing on his. Have you seen this one?
I feel like I might have.
It's the king standing on the gate wall, looking down, and it's everybody with the pitchforks and the fires or in their torches or whatever. He's like, what are we gonna do? It's like, you just got to make sure the torches hate the pitchforks. The pitchforks hate the torches.
I've seen that.
And then they'll leave you alone.
Yeah,
and that's what it's hard not to see that, to me at least anymore, is that it's just we're trying to that's the cultural narrative that we get out of our government. It's a culture issue, and I think that's one of the things also that I think we've lost a national culture, or even a local culture at that level. Like, I don't feel like there is an American anymore.
Right.
There's all subsets of Americans, and we're all subdivided all the time by all these different subsets. Right. When the one that really matters politically is the money one that we've been talking about, but it's the straight or gay, it's the this or that, it's the black or white.
But
it's
these
all
are just
these
devices, devices of division.
But I think it's on purpose anymore. I can't believe that it's an accident. It's just, or that's the nature of the public. No, I don't think it's a good, easy thing to keep people occupied with
programs
instead of doing what needs to be done.
Right.
Okay, so I've got my five standard questions for all of my campaign interviews, and then we'll let you do your plugs and stuff like that, and then we'll call it a show.
Okay.
All right. So question one, we've already kind of discussed it, but the simple version of it is your specific political history. Is this the first office you've run for? What's your future after you take this office?
So the next thing after this is if we do not, for whatever reason, be successful, I'll be very shocked. But if we're not successful, Black Coffee Justice, the organization I've already talked about on the show today, will be moving to open up a new department in itself, which we will be moving to the lobbyist platform. I think that at the end of the day, why not get in the thick of the things and really get there, compete with with the real monsters in the field. But the key thing is that we won't be using money as our form of lobbying, and we'll be using morality and honor, integrity, and the codes that I was brought up on in the military, and as my parents who raised me the home that I was brought up in as well, which is that you tell the truth. So we will be pushing politicians to stand up against the money and actually be more truthful and transparent to their voters and taxpayers, to let them know the pressures that they're dealing with, but more importantly, making what we're talking about now, the moral, conscious, correct decision, which is doing what's best interest of the people that put them in the office in the first place. All
right, number two is what's your favorite place to eat around here?
Oh man, favorite spot to eat. Let me think. That's gonna be. You know what? Oh, you got one?
Hold on, I got. I can't turn the mic on. Right, it's halfway through the thing. It doesn't work that way. What is it? Say it loud.
Oh, my sister's house. Yeah, I was gonna say not Watts if I'm like out on Market Square or something like that. Yeah.
It's really just an excuse for me to find places to go out to eat. And then number three is, what's your favorite ice cream?
My favorite ice cream. Oh man. I just had a really good one the other day. I think it was salted caramel. That was really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then number four gets back to think of it. This was the entire show was this one. Do you think partisanship helps me as a voter?
What does that mean? Like having the two-party system?
Yeah. Do you think it helps me as a voter in making decisions?
No. I think they influence it. I think they're corrupting it. But as far as like actually showing you the full spectrum, the full plate of your buffet of choices, I don't think it helps you do that at all.
All right. And then number five, again, I don't think this applies, but because this is some of these questions were built especially on the school board races this year, since they are now partisan. Because what I want to do, because if I get a Republican in here, question 5 is, as a Republican, tell me about a Democrat you like, and then it would be, as a Democrat, tell me about a Republican you like. So give me your favorite.
As an independent, all right.
Yeah, it's kind of like it doesn't really apply as well, since we already made clear the partisanship is stupid.
As an independent, let me see. I still am a big fan of AOC. I still think she does well. Cori Bush, too. I like her a lot as well. So those are the two Democrats that come to my mind. Republicans, let me think. I can't think of one. I'll be on Trump. I guess I like Trump the best because he was just entertaining. He was funny. Like you said, he definitely was quite the distraction. I will say this: gas was definitely cheaper. I know people don't want to admit it, but
And,
it was.
it
Was gas.
Well,
was
if you want to get
cheaper.
a personally specific one for you, he did a lot more for the VA than has been done in
That's
decades.
what I'm saying. He gave us money and everything we need over here. Made sure we was fully funded, committed to that. You're right. He did.
That's one of those ones that
As a business owner, he did a lot for y'all too. He cut a lot of chains on the money lines and access to funding and things of that nature too. So I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Economically, he might have been better.
it's just he just couldn't stay off the Twitter.
Yeah, I'm independent, so I can say that he was better. I'm sorry, he was better, but okay.
Fair enough. All right, so that's what I've got. So take a couple minutes to your plugs, ways people can reach out to you, help campaign, any of that kind of stuff. Your website obviously is ways to learn more about you.
Oh, man. So first, I want to thank you, Lord Self, for allowing me to be on Almost in Agreement. This was an amazing show. Thank you for having the bravery, is what I call it, because people are scared to get in the den with Constance Every sometimes. But I'm glad you were able to show a side of me that, like you said, we may not have to align on everything, but you'll find that we agree on many things if you come under the layers. So with that being said, I'm running for governor of Tennessee 2022. My name is Constance Every. I am an independent candidate, so you'll be looking for that I next to my name. You can find me on my platforms at www.tn, that is Tango November, the number 4. I'm gonna spell my name is Echo. What is it? Echo. What is that? I forgot the V. Echo Victor Echo Romeo Yankee, the number 1 at .com. If you go to the website, you scroll to the bottom of the page, that will link you to all of our social media platforms. We're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Please follow our campaign. I always post my calendar, what cities, what counties, what locations I'll be in. I'm looking forward to shaking many hands, talking to many folks, hearing your personal stories, and more importantly, telling me how I can, as your governor, the people governor, poor people, the working class people, the veterans, the homeless, the elderly, disabled, the union workers, all of you individuals who are out here really keeping the backbone of America going day in and day out. How can we change the way we're doing things in the state of Tennessee? And more importantly, how can your tax dollars work better for you? My name is Constance Every. I'm running for governor of Tennessee 2022. Tennessee for everyone, where everyone wins.
Nice. All right. So I lied. I had one more question for you because it's not a campaign question. What do you think about new police chief Noel?
I am concerned. I'll be honest. As you know, New Orleans Police Department has quite its own reputation. It is known nationally for its corruption. As we know that some of the programs that are bringing from Chief Noel in are obviously from the New Orleans Police Departments and the requirements that the federal government imposed upon their police department to have to do to show good faith to the department, to the federal government, and to the citizens that they are making true work towards progressively trying to change the culture of that department. I'm concerned it's his ability to do that. I feel like if that's not the case, he is coming in good, honest faith with the incentives of what he learned from New Orleans to bring to Knoxville, then I feel like he's also at the same time been blindsided by the current administration of Indy Kincannon and those in the city that are fully aware of the issues with Knoxville Police Department. I would like to know if he's aware of the fact that there was a racism complaint made by internally of the fellow employees of the department. I would like to know if he's aware of the fact that a police officer recently was caught speeding down Kingston Pike without any true definition of jurisdiction of why and killed someone. I would like to know if he knows about the incident that happened at Austin East High School with Anthony Thompson Jr. And even though they may say justified, but there's still the issues of protocol that was definitely broken in the process of the approach to the bathroom. I would like to know if he's aware of those situations. I would just like to know how much he really knows about Knoxville Police Department and if he really is aware of what he's getting himself honestly into. Right. So that's my concern with Officer Noel.
Right. I'm very interested in because they changed some of the civil service policies, so he's going to be able to bring in. I think it's probably hopefully a good thing for the culture issues that are in place. They have their culture started going on, but they've also changed the civil service code so he can bring in. He doesn't have to promote up to his deputy chiefs. He can bring in deputy chiefs from elsewhere. So hopefully that can break some culture cycle. I'm with you on it. I'm hopeful that he can bring in some of the changes that New Orleans had to make.
Yeah,
the feds wouldn't.
They
be
had to.
Otherwise.
Yeah,
but hopefully he was on board and he was part of that, and hopefully he can bring that in here and make some of those changes. Because I think it goes to the entirety of our conversation. There's a big trust gap.
Yes.
Between me and you and regular people walking around the street and the people of authority, whether that's the police or the governor or the House or all the other people involved. So
don't ask me to trust him just yet. Yeah, don't ask me just yet. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have another 2-hour show after that. So we'll break it off here. I got an outro to do. I thank you so much for coming, and we're going out.
Peace.
Constance Every, everybody. That doesn't go together well. I apologize. Constance for governor. I'll put the link in the show notes and stuff like that for you guys, so you're able to get a hold of that easily and quickly. That's fun. It was really fun. It was really exciting. And she's right. I was a little scared because there's some lore about Constance that she could be a little bit intimidating, and it's not wrong, but it's not as scary intimidating. It's a rush of words. So anyway, we're almost in agreement. Almost in agreement at gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to our website, almostinagreement.com. I got the election guide there. I'll have a link to this show next to Constance's name, as well as everybody else that's running. Links to KGIS, links to Knox County Election Commission. Get registered if you're not already, but you can find out if you are and all that kind of stuff, as well as what district you're in, who you're voting for, all that kind of stuff. I'm still working on my job description guide because I still don't know what half the people that we elect actually do for a living, so we'll work on that as well. But I got another one later. We've got a big show tomorrow, and then I've got Kaz, who I've been fighting with on Facebook too, so that's going to be a fun one on Wednesday. So anyway, we're almost in agreement, everybody. Have a good one.